Welcome to 30-minute reviews. Lost me in there for a minute. I am Adam. So let's start out with our weekly news portion of the show. Have you ever woken up at 3 in the morning to take a piss and you grab your phone, you have a flashlight so you don't trip over anything in the dark? You turn your phone screen on to pull the top down so you can turn the flashlight on, and you just see you got terrible, terrible news at some point in the night. Well, that happened to me last night, because last night the X-Men Dark Phoenix trailer dropped. I had no expectations for this movie, and the trailer is still indicating to me that this movie is going to be worse than I ever could have expected it to be. Because part of the problem that I had with the previous X-Men movie, which was, of course, Apocalypse, not Logan. The previous mainline X-Men movie was Apocalypse. That one was that it... I wasn't a fan of the cast. Granted, that could have been the direction, because I think Sophie Turner can act, given the right direction. I think that, as evidenced by White Boy Rick, the guy who plays Scott can act as well. I don't remember his name off the top of my head. So there's a lot of wasted potential. Like, I mean, I did like Alexandra Shipp's Storm. I liked the 5 Seconds of Jubilee. I liked Evan Peters' Quicksilver, as is always great. And then James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender are also in the movie, reprising their roles. So it appears to me that this movie is going to feature Jean Grey going rogue against the X-Men after she gets her Phoenix powers awakened, and then goes to find Magneto, because Magneto is a force of anarchy, and she's like, hey, you can show me what to do more than Charles can, because Charles is hiding stuff from me. But I think the issue here is that, again, I think that I am not sure if this is the best way to go with this movie. But, like, they seem to be billing it as the last mission. We know it's going to be the last mission because it's, Disney's going to be taking over after this movie comes out in February. Which is nice, because it'll tide us over until Captain Marvel. It'll be something to get your ass in a seat for a theater, and, you'll go see it. But I don't know. I'm not expecting much from this movie. I'm not expecting it to be good. I'm not even expecting it to be passable. I'm not expecting it to be terrible. I don't know. Simon Kinberg has never directed anything, I don't think. He just wrote the previous X-Men movie, which was Apocalypse, and it shows that he maybe doesn't know what to do with the characters, considering a bunch of them fucked off for a good amount of time, and no one really talked about where they went or what they were doing, or if it had any balance or relevance to the story. They just go to the mall and they make a joke that hurts themselves at the same time, which I feel like that was a Bryan Singer thing, because he was getting a jab in at Brett Ratner. And we can talk about how Bryan Singer is a little dick asshole about that whole thing. Like, you leave to go direct Superman Returns, which was bad. Also, you can't say Superman Returns was that good. It wasn't that. It was okay. It wasn't great. But it's not like he went off and did something much better after he left X-Men to go do another franchise movie. Then he comes back to it, and he does Days of Future Past, which was great. And then he does Apocalypse. And then in that movie, there's the line where it's like, we all agree the third is the worst. And it's like, yeah, of the prequel X-Men movies, yeah, Apocalypse is the worst. So you went on that one too. So I don't know. I feel like this movie, I have no expectations for it. Trailer still let me down. So yeah. So we'll. I don't know. I there's nothing really to say about it. It's like, it looks like they're retreading the same stuff as X-Men 3, and it's just going to be fundamentally the same story. It's just the difference is it's 20 years prior, and it's the context around it is slightly different. I mean, and it looks like they're going to actually go to space this time, which is a little better, but it's not fixing the fundamental problems of the movie. The fundamental problem of X-Men 3 was not that they didn't go to space and that they changed the origin of the Phoenix. The problem is that they didn't develop the Phoenix enough going into it, where we didn't have enough of an understanding of it. That's what the problem was, and they're not really addressing that problem, it seems like. So that's that for that movie. The next trailer that came out, going backwards, Creed 2, which genuinely hyped me up for Creed 2, because that movie didn't need to sell me a ticket because the first Creed was so good. It was one of my favorite movies of 2015, 2016, whenever it came out. But it was 2015. This movie, it showcases that not only are we going to have the fight between Drago's son Victor and Adonis Creed, but we're also going to have some semblance of a acknowledgement by Rocky. Like, he has the line where he's like, this is the first time we really see Rocky take the ill effects in the franchise of his fight is in the immediate aftermath of the fight against Drago, where he gets the fuck beaten out of him, and he's like near death at the end of that movie. And he's in the shower and his hands are shaking, and that, I don't remember if that was at the end of this or if that was in the beginning of 5, because 5 picks up right after 4. I don't remember which it was. It was one of those two. And he goes, and he just gets the shit knocked out of him, but he still wins the fight against Ivan Drago. So he has that line to, he has a very heartbreaking line in the trailer to Adonis, and he goes, this man, he broke things in me that have never been fixed, because it completely destroyed his brain, the fight. And it's such, it's good to see that they're actually acknowledging that, because, like, the previous movie didn't really show that he had any real, like, his fight was with cancer, which is independent of what happened to him in the ring, which is fine, but then the problem also becomes, what's it called? They don't actually ever, like, address that he actually, did have a bad effect from fighting, even going into Rocky Balboa, where he gets back in the ring that many years later, even really better than 5. But they, then showing them in the ring and showing him facing down with Drago one more time, it gave me a chill to see Rocky facing him down one more time, even if we know they're not fighting and they're just both the manager for their protege. It was such a good face off between the two of them, and it's meant to create more tension than you already have for this fight, because it's the sons of two people who one died in the ring and the other one was just like, if he dies, who cares? I'm sorry, if he dies, he dies. That was the line. And he goes, and now you have their sons here trying to correct history, which is what he says in the trailer. But then you also have Rocky facing off against one of his greatest enemies, which hasn't really, been done so far. So definitely looking forward to Creed 2. Unfortunately, now we're going to go back to the shit. If you follow me on Twitter, you know that I was displeased with this trailer when it dropped 2 days ago. Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald. I've already expressed displeasure with this movie as a concept because the title alone annoys me. Because the first part of the movie Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the title comes from the book written by Newt Scamander, which is called Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. The second part of it, first part, Fantastic Beasts, second part, and Where to Find Them, are not two separate thoughts. It's one long thought. Now, the sequel is called Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald. The second part of the title and the first part of the title have nothing to do with each other. You could have just called this movie The Crimes of Grindelwald, and you would have had the same effect without it feeling weird. That's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is that is substantially bigger. I said it's the Harry Potter equivalent of midichlorians, the new backstory for Nagini. I didn't think Nagini needed a backstory. Nothing about her character in Harry Potter ever indicated to me that there was more to it than her just being a snake. But now we have it where originally she was a human. She has a curse on her, where she turns into a snake. Eventually the transformation will be permanent, and she will permanently turn into a snake, and she won't be able to turn back. And then that's the end of it. Now, fundamentally, this causes two problems going forward and into the continuity as established by the original Harry Potter books. Number one, there are two options you can go with here, because it seems like the arcane circus that they're doing is going to have a very pivotal role in the movie, considering how much of it is shown in the trailers. So they can either go the carnivorous carnival route and have the everyone participating in the circus join Grindelwald in the fight, which seems logical considering the fact that it appears as if the Carns are all being exploited for the Muggles' amusement. So that seems like to be a logical route. Or it could just be somewhere he visits, and it's like the step on the way to, but it's a big set piece step on the way to the finding Grindelwald. Now, if it's the former, where they join Grindelwald, that fundamentally changes the role of what Voldemort has, because now one of the main members of his cohort of Death Eaters was a member of one of the first that we know of wizard Nazi regimes, which is Grindelwald. Grindelwald was the Nazi stand-in, where he wants to purify the bloodline and all that, and then he takes over, where Voldemort was a neo-Nazi to Grindelwald's Hitler, where he looked up to him and saw him as, someone who started, didn't go far enough, or more like Kylo Ren to Darth Vader. Now, that gets thrown in the garbage. Now, if you have someone who was there for the first one, also in the second one now, or second and third, if you break it up into two separate ones like some people do. But that's my problem with this, is that you're removing some of the fact that you don't need to. I talked about this on Beware of Spoilers for Operation Finale, where it's like when you make it look like the Nazis aren't people, or you make it look like you need to have someone special there to push it along, it takes away the fact that still there were millions of people who were influenced by it, and everyday people joined up to the cause and signed on because it's what everyone else was doing. And when you have this, by having there be a stand-in from the original time period where this first happened, it takes that away a little bit. And it causes a little bit of, not a continuity issue, but more of an issue with there's a word I'm looking for. It takes away the original artistic intention of the way Voldemort and the Death Eaters were portrayed, where they were neo-Nazis who went further than neo-Nazis do in the real world. With this, it makes it look like they have the blessing now of the original. Either that, or you have an even more tragic story where you have Claudia Kim's character permanently turned into a snake, roaming the earth for 50 years, and then she gets brainwashed and lobotomized, and then she becomes puppet of Voldemort. So, which is a needless extension of the backstory. And I don't know why we needed to make it where Nagini was a sympathetic character. There are plenty of characters that you can explore the backstory of that are in this time period. Ariana Dumbledore, who never got explored in the movie. She had a brief explanation in the books, but she could have been explored here. You could have explored the role of what McGonagall was doing at the time. There are so many other characters whose backstories weren't ever talked about and were around in this time period or reasonably close to this time period that you could explore it. But they don't. They would rather just not do it. Or just keep it straight. Just do the story of Dumbledore. Also, I have a problem with the way they're portraying Grindelwald as Johnny Depp. He looks like a crackhead. And I don't know why. He's not attractive in this movie at all. And Johnny Depp can be attractive. He's not in this movie, though. So that's where I'm going to end off with that. So this is going to be the episode of the week where we give the promo code for the giveaway. This week we're giving away a copy of Justice League. I know we're starting off on a strong note. I just picked up next week's giveaway movie at Best Buy a little while ago. So we have this week, it is Justice League. If you email in code JUSTICE after this goes live, then you will be entered into win the win the digital copy of the movie from Movies Anywhere. You have to email in to 30minutereviews@gmail.com, and we will I will take everyone who emails in. So pick everything, randomize, put it into a list, randomize it, one person wins, and then it goes from there. So remember, email in code JUSTICE to 30minutereviews@gmail.com, and you will be entered to win a digital copy of Justice League. So we have our last thing for this week will be a review of End of the Fucking World. Not that good. Was not impressed. Granted, I also had higher expectations for it, considering how much people talked about how does it not have a second season? The show is so great. The show is so great. The show is so great. And I think it's more. A few weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, I reviewed Peppermint. Beware of spoilers. And I thought it was a very good movie. It was what I went into expecting. I think that when I looked at some of the reviews, I think that politics were influencing reviews a little bit, because I saw a lot of them were talking about how it glorifies guns. It's like, but that doesn't influence the movie. It doesn't influence the viewing of the movie. It influences nothing. It doesn't tell if the movie's good or not. It's just, that shouldn't be a reason to give the movie a bad review. And I think what this movie does is it doesn't it illustrates adolescent sexuality in a very honest way, similar to how 8th grade does. So I think that's why it got good reviews. But I think the problem with this show is that it goes on too long. 8 episodes was too much, and there's not enough really going to, There's not enough really going on to really warrant it being 4 hours. I watched it all in one night, and there's a good 3 episodes in the middle where I'm like, oh, fuck, there's still more, and it just keeps going. It's like, at least when I watched Atypical, it may have seemed like it was going on too long, and maybe 8 episodes was the right amount of time for the first season, and maybe even for the second season. 8 episodes is too much for this show. They didn't know what to do with some of the time, where it's like there's an episode that's literally just filler and it doesn't really amount to anything or really develop the characters any. When she goes to steal underwear from after they kill the guy, she goes to steal underwear and stuff. She abandons the other guy. I forgot his name. I forgot both of their names actually, but I watched it a week ago. She abandons him and goes off on her own little side mission. That entire episode can be omitted with no real loss. Just like the first episode of, The first episode of, when the dad's introduced. The entire time the dad's there. You can do this in 6 episodes and you'd be better off. The police tracking them is an interesting thing, but I didn't need the development of the relationship between the 2 cops that are working together to track them. Because I feel like it was just forced and just kind of there for no real reason. Yeah, I mean, definitely, watch it. Don't watch it all at once like I did. I feel like if I didn't watch it all at once, I might actually have liked it more. But because I watched it all at once, that may be skewing how I viewed it. So yeah, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I also was expecting it to be way, way better. To an extent, because the reviews made it sound like it was the second coming of Christ being televised. But yeah, if you haven't already checked it out, then definitely do. It's not that bad. But yeah, don't expect anything apocalyptic, because that's what I was expecting too. What I knew was that there were 2 teenagers, and that it was called End of the Fucking World, so I was like, oh, okay, it's 2 teenagers on a road trip after the apocalypse. Fine. not the case. But yeah, it's mildly entertaining. So yeah, we'll wrap it up there. Next week we have Solo is gonna be our movie. Solo, a Star Wars story. So yeah, have a good week.